sort of a breakdown of what the university's response to the COVID-19 crisis. We also have some, we have to do the oath of office for our new exec board, which is very exciting. And if you have any reports in this last week, please put it, sorry if there's confusion about the minutes document, please put it in the minutes document that Secretary Messessany sent out, just so everyone can see what is happening in these last weeks. So without further ado, I'm gonna pass it off to COO Phelps. Mr. Phelps, you can.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. And before we get started, maybe you could give me an idea of how much time you might have allotted for me, so that I'm very sensitive that you have a lot on your agenda as your last meeting of the academic year.
Yeah, sorry, I should have emailed that to you earlier. We have about, I'd say around 15 minutes yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I'll try to make my opening remarks as brief as possible so that we can get on to questions that you may have of me. But yet, you know, it's been a crazy end of the year, and I can't express enough to this body and to the full student body how impacted the administration is, because this year hasn't worked out as any of us planned, and particularly you. And I don't know how many seniors we have in the group, but certainly not how anyone planned for your senior year to end. And so I try to reflect back a little bit over my life about events that changed the world. And the first one I remember, I was about 12 years old, and President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas on November 22nd, 1963. And that was kind of a world-changing event, because we were in a bit of an arms race at that time with what was, I think, known then as the Soviet Union. And there was a fear that communism was going to take over the world. And that John Kennedy was kind of a hope for the people in the US, and that went away. And then the next one, it was a number of years later, the second major changing event was the September 11th, 2001 attack on the Twin Towers in New York. And it's my guess that many of you that are on this call were probably born either in that year, maybe a year before, maybe a year after. So you probably don't have a great memory, but that changed the world substantially. If you can imagine going through an airport and not having to go through security and not having to go through a metal detector, that was one of the major changes, among many others, Homeland Security and many others that came out of 2001. So it forever changed the world. Then the third one was the 2008 financial crisis. And I imagine many of you were kind of in your younger years, maybe 7, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And I'm sure your families were impacted by that, but you may not have long memories or strong memories about that. It was the worst financial disaster since the 1929 Great Depression and crash of the stock market. And now you've got the fourth world crisis, which is the COVID crisis, and this will change the world for you and for everyone. Some benefits will come out of this, and a few negatives. One is we'll all, including you, will use this as a learning experience of how to deal with crisis and adversity going forward. Other things that will come out of this that may be more positive is, I don't know that I'm ever going to go back to the doctor again. I may have telemedicine for the rest of my life, which certainly can be a good thing to lower the cost of healthcare and many other things. But you'll remember this for a long time. The memories are bitter right now because it's not where you want to be, or any of us really want to be. But you know, I remember where I was on those four events. You'll remember where you were when COVID hit, and you'll tell friends and family and probably children and maybe grandchildren about what happened to your year at college when the virus hit. So again, I want to let you know, none of us wanted this, but this is what we've got, and we're a resilient bunch, and we'll work through it, and we'll come out the other side, and hopefully we'll be stronger. So it was interesting. I spoke with the faculty and the staff a little earlier, and right after I got done speaking with them, I got a very nice email from Dr. Schwain. I don't know if any of you have Dr. Schwain. He's a Lilly Fellow. He was the provost here at the university for a number of years. But if you'd indulge me, I'd just like to read this to you. And it maybe is not directly on point with students, but it's directly on point with many of our families. And it says, may we who are merely inconvenienced remember those whose lives are at stake. May we who have fewer risk factors remember those most vulnerable. May we who have the luxury of from home, or I might say studying from home, remember those who are forced to choose between preserving their health and or making their rent. May we who have the flexibility to care for our children when their schools close remember those that have been offered no options. May we who have to cancel our trips remember those who have no place to go. May we who are losing our margin money in the tumult of the economic market remember those that are given no margin at all. May we who settle in for a quarantine at home remember those who have no home. During this time, when we cannot physically wrap our arms around each other, may we yet find ways to be the loving embrace of God to our neighbors. And this was adopted from Cameron Wiggins Belm. So that really touched me when I got that from Professor Schwain, and he's just a very wonderful man and has been with the university for a long time. So that's kind of my opening remarks. There's a couple things that I'd like to accomplish tonight, in addition to answering questions that might come up. One is to kind of let you know who I am and what I do. You've been getting emails from me, and you've been scratching your head saying, "Who is this guy?" Some of you that may have been on Faculty Senate last year may remember that I visited Faculty Senate when we had some questions about snow removal. And this year, I'm happy to say we didn't have very much snow, so we didn't have a lot of issues with getting that snow removed. So again, tell you kind of what I do and what my responsibilities are. I want to reinforce President Heckler's commitment in response to the resolution that was sent to him that you will be communicated with this week with respect to a couple of things, inclusive of the adjustments for room and board and parking, as well as distribution of the CARES money, which you probably are aware of from reading the newspapers and the news. And then the third thing is talk a little bit about the administration, how it makes decisions, and how it's responded to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the first one is, who am I and what do I do? My title is Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, and I have responsibility for university finances and non-academic operations of the institution. I work closely with the provost, who is an executive vice president as well, and responsible for the academic delivery and academic operations. We both work closely with all the vice presidents of the functional areas, which you can find listed under the president's cabinet on the website. And I'm sure that you're aware that Dr. DeGraw is a vice president and on the president's council alongside me. So what does an executive vice president, chief operating officer do? I have 8 direct reports, and through them, through executive director Jason Cooch, I have responsibility for buildings and grounds. We have approximately 2.1 million square feet of buildings and a little more than 300 acres. Through Chief Becky and Assistant Chief Chuck, I have responsibility for VUPD. I think they're sometimes referred to as VUPD. Through Executive Director Eric Maturia, I have responsibility for student auxiliary services, including dining, mail services, purchasing, bookstore, parking and transportation, and One Card. And through the Director of Human Resources, we care for approximately 550 staff members and 300 faculty. And then last but not least, through Assistant Vice President Tamara Gingrich, I have responsibility for the budget, which is about $125 million. So that's what we spend on an annual basis to maintain the buildings and grounds and deliver the education to our students. I sit on a number of committees in the institution, and I chair the Executive Management Council. Happy to answer any questions if anybody wants to drill down further on any of my responsibilities or other questions related to what I do. Isis, do you have a question?
Yes. Well, thank you first for coming in to speak to us and to come to answer all the questions that we have. We appreciate your willingness to do that. It represents a lot of transparency for us, which we value a lot. My question is, given that you some of your work is related to the university finances, I know for myself and my friends as well, we're all a little confused as to why exactly this crisis has put our university in such a bad place financially that caused the furloughs of university staffers. If you can just speak to that a little bit or explain the reasoning behind it.
Sure. So I think that CFO Scroggins met with you a number of weeks ago, and I think she shared with you generally the finances of the institution, and she probably shared with you that we spend more money in some cases than we take in. Part of that is related to scholarships, and part of that is related to we have a big institution with a lot of square feet, and there are costs to run it, and we don't always collect enough tuition to pay that. So we have an endowment, and we can take certain amount out of our endowment every year as our board of directors will allow us to do that. So is that kind of what the gist of what she covered when she was with you? Okay. So what happened? COVID-19 impacted our costs, and it's further impacting our costs. For example, we have an expectation that we collect tuition at different times of the year. We don't know exactly where we're going to be for summer school, and a big unknown for us is where we're going to be for enrollment in the fall. There are 26 million people in our country that are out of work, and we don't know what number of students that we have whose families may be impacted, and they may decide that they can't come back next year. And we don't know how many freshmen that we bring in every year may decide that they can't come in. So the financial impact to the university has been pretty substantial, and the actions that we took with the furloughs were somewhat defensive on what may come down the road, and we actually took advantage of some government money that is available to people that are unemployed, and we didn't lay off people. If you lay off someone, that means they're no longer an employee, and you separate. And we chose to furlough people, which means they're still employees of the university. We are still paying the university's portion of their health insurance, and with the government enhancement that they will be paid in addition to the unemployment payments that you collect through the state unemployment system. Many of them will make either almost as much. Some will make more than what they make when they're working. So if it weren't for that $600 a week government payment, we may have taken a different approach. And I know that sometimes we move in slow and wonderful ways, but we spent hours and hours and hours looking at all the alternatives, trying to read the government laws, the federal government laws, and trying to interpret what they might mean for our staff and our institution. And it was a huge job. And some people may have read where there were grants that were available and payroll protection loans and things of that nature. We didn't qualify for any of that because most of that was for companies or institutions that had fewer than 500 employees. And we have over 850. So there was a lot of things that came out that we were trying to digest and frankly are still trying to digest. So does that answer your question?
Yes, that makes things a little more clear. Thank you.
Great. Caitlin.
Hi, David.
Hi.
I was wondering when students will be notified about the upcoming refund and if we can get any details on how that number is being worked out.
Okay, so I believe that your president and vice president met with President Heckler, and he committed that you would have a response before the end of the month on what the refunds were going to be, and some information on how they're calculated. And also, I'm not sure he said this to you, but you may be aware that part of the federal government package to higher education is something called the CARES package. And so the CARES package is what the government is set aside to help institutions and help students. And I will tell you that the president is involved with lobbying Congress with a group in Washington that helps universities and helps Valparaiso University, and the higher ed in general asked Congress for about $68 billion in help. What they were awarded was about $14 billion. So there's a big delta between what the institutions of higher education felt they needed and what Congress was either capable or willing to give. Valparaiso gets about $3 million in CARES money, half of which will be distributed under the intent of the law from that Congress passed, will go directly to students. And that money is designed, and Congress wrote into law that they want those typically with higher need to be taken care of. And we think we've developed a plan, and I don't know all the ins and outs of the plan, but we've developed a plan to address students of need. But I will tell you that predominantly all students will receive something out of the CARES package. There are some that unfortunately they excluded by law, and those are what they call students that are not Title IV eligible. And typically those are international students and DACA students. And the university will be addressing those students that are excluded from that, from the CARES money that will be distributed. So by Friday of this week, you will get a communication from the university that talks about CARES money being distributed and how it will be distributed. And you'll also, in that same communication, will be covered the adjustments for room and board and parking and how you can access that. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I did just want to clarify one more thing. So the refund itself is not needs-based. Is that correct?
Refund is not needs-based. The CARES money is needs-based.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Ben?
Yes, hello. So you said
By the
that
way,
half
I
of
like
the,
the hair. I wish I had your stylist, because
Thank
it's
you.
been 6 weeks since I've had a haircut, and I'm as somebody else also said, I'm not letting my wife come near me with scissors. So
Yeah, I'm sure we're all waiting to get to the hairstylist. So anyway, with the CARES Act money, you said that about half of it, because of federal guidelines, are going to students. How is the university planning to use the other half of that money?
well, some of it may be used to take care of those students that are excluded, and we're still considering how we're going to use the other half. So it'll be about $1.5 million. But you know, we have lots of expenses that continue on, and for example, on housing and dining. When we put our budget together at the beginning of the year, we assume that we're going to collect a certain amount of money from tuition and housing and dining, and that we're going to get all that money in the year, and we're giving back some of that money, and those costs continue on. You know, we make contracts, we enter into contracts to service the heating and air conditioning, and to service you know, the facilities, and we contract for purchases in advance. We contract with food providers. We enter into a number of contracts, and those costs continue on, whether you're sleeping in the room or whether you're eating the food. You know, we can mitigate some of the costs. Obviously, as the number of students went down, there wasn't as much food purchased, but there was plenty of food here when you all left campus based on the governor's orders. So some of that money will likely be used to offset some of the additional costs we have, and recover some of the pay the people that we've already contracted with as well. So it's a you know, some people refer to those as sunk costs, which are costs that we're going to pay whether we're collecting revenue from food or dining.
Thank you.
Chris.
Yeah, I just want to ask about the lack of student communication for like the past month and a week up until today, really. We finally got a confirmation that students would be included in the discussion, or not just included in discussions, but rather told about the discussions that were happening. What was the original rationale behind not telling students all the information? And I get that like bombarding us with information is a lot, but transparency has been an issue that the university has been facing for a while. So I just kind of want to see what you have to say about that.
Yeah. So you can always do better on communication. I don't care who you are, whether you're the federal government, whether you're the town, whether you're the institution. And, you know, my apologies if you didn't get enough information or you didn't get it in the proper way. We've put out a fair amount of information. The website, you know, has had 50 or so entries on various things. We've tried to send emails. One of the recommendations that we got was that we should include multiple groups in the communication, so that faculty understood what we were sending to students and students understood what we were sending to faculty. And we've taken that to heart. And actually, I think you've seen that several of the emails that have come out from me recently and others have had all three parties listed on the email. And we're posting those to the website as well. There's some 50 communications that have gone out since we started the COVID communication. Some 40 of those were related directly to students. I'll tell you, there's one group that we don't typically have a good way to communicate with, and that's parents and family members. And one of the things that we've learned, and Dr. DeGraw has helped us with this, and is going to be spearheading a group that in the future, hopefully, we can have an easier way to communicate with parents and family members about things that are going on as well. So, point taken. We'll do better. The other thing that I will share with you is, you can't imagine how many people we have working on this and trying to figure out what the right answer is. There's no textbook that's written that says how do you deal with a pandemic. At least not that we study. There may be for the World Health Organizations and others. I think maybe even our public health master's program may have some in it, but this has been a bit of a learning experience for all of us. And boy, I hope I don't have to learn this again. I'll tell you, the decisions that we make, every one of them, the core tenets of any decision is, how does it make our students, our faculty, and our staff safe? How does it make them safe? When we started out in, I guess has it only been early March that this thing's been going on? I think you all were on spring break, and the dates kind of run together for me now, but I think you were all on spring break, and we had hundreds of students around the globe, and we could feel this coming. And we didn't get a big warning, that the federal government said, oh, well, we've had one case, and, we're going to handle this, and we're going to be prepared. And then we started to watch it spread across Europe. And I can remember sitting in meetings, kind of wringing my hands about exchange students and spring break students that we had in Europe, and we had in various parts of the world. And we started sending messages asking them to think about how they might come home and whether they would come home. And nobody wanted to come home. And I understand that. And, we spent a lot of energy and a lot of time continually sending messages through our Office of International Study, OIP, Office of International Programs. They were contacting the students that were abroad. We were dealing with some of the facilities abroad, and I'm sure there's probably somebody on this call that was impacted, but those were some pretty tough decisions. And the hardest decision that we had to make was saying, you need to come home, because we knew that disrupted people's programs. And hey, my kids did study abroad, and I understand how disheartening that was, but every one of those decisions that we make that impacts your experience are gut-wrenching. And again, we haven't moved particularly fast, but we've moved at a deliberate pace, trying to make sure that we were making the best decision for the students, to make sure that they were safe, and to make sure that the experience was what we could allow it to be.
Thank
Does
you.
that answer your question?
you.
Thanks. Caitlin, I'm not going to put a limit on you. You can ask as many questions as your chair will allow you to ask.
Sounds good. So thanks, Mark. I just got your message. So in this short discussion, you said some really important things. Like, first of all, international students are going to be included in the refund. You've mentioned things about the financial status of the university, and all of our meetings are recorded and put online. So any student has access to these meetings. I'm just wondering why this information wasn't shared on a more public, accessible platform before coming to Senate.
I don't know. I can't answer the question. Some of it has only come together recently. There's also some concern about how much information or what kinds of information is shared on a more public basis, as to not create panic. Okay, so if you recall, we took a pretty measured approach about students. I mean, we were teaching classes, we were open, the residence halls were open. We would have continued that throughout the year. We had plans to make sure people were safe. We improved, or not improved, but we went to the flu protocol, which the university has had for a long time, on cleaning in residence halls and high touch points. And, we spent a lot of time planning that, but we didn't want to create panic in people's minds about the flu. And then when the governor's order came out, we didn't have a choice. We had to send everybody home at that point in time. Those that that could go home, and those that had safe places to go. You're probably aware we still have about 100 students on campus living in residence halls. No more than 8 per floor, so that we're keeping the social distancing and trying to make sure they're safe.
That's really good to hear. I'm really happy that you guys took so many measures to make sure that we are safe throughout this whole thing. I think that for us senators, the most important thing is transparency, like Chris was saying. So now that we have access to this information, it's kind of our job to share it with as many of our constituents as possible.
Sure.
So what role do you see us playing in this? And is there any way we could release this information sooner than Friday if it is prepared?
I don't think it's going to be finalized and final approval until Friday. It could come earlier, but I think there's a number of people that need to sign off on what's what is actually going to be sent out. So it could come again. I don't know exactly where it stands in the process. We got a lot of people working at it. I mean, there are people from student accounts. There our vice presidents. There's the financial staff. There's a lot of people looking at different things. And for example, the CARES money is being calculated and distributed, or it's being calculated by financial aid, because they have access to all of the financial aid records that are being used.
Can I add to that, David, just to say,
Sure.
Caitlin, part of what happened is we did think we had a plan and we're ready to communicate, and then middle of last week, the government decided to share with us that the international students and others were not, they didn't get access to that money. And so we had to come up with the money. Right now we're finalizing the application form for folks, figure out how we were going to get that out, because we wanted all in one communication, because we didn't want to communicate out to students as a whole, hey, here's this money, and then to international students, just kidding, this isn't available to you, and we don't have a plan for how to address that. We wanted it to come out all in one communication, and partly because of what Annika shared last week about, here's the 4 ways we're providing funds, and that you all felt that was helpful to have it all in one. And so I really passed that along from last week, and have really kind of pushed people this week to say, let's not send it out until we actually have that finalized, which as of today, we have the form. So it could be before Friday, but we want to make sure that it has all the details, and you guys still don't have the details. We want to make sure that goes out to everybody at one time. So Caitlin, we're not necessarily giving you all the details right now, because it should go to all students and not just to you all. So we want that to be all in one place. So that did throw a little monkey wrench into things that we would have had it out, we think, earlier if that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. DeGraw. And that's a major point. So you may be familiar with the process of federal laws, but Congress passes laws, and they're pretty much guidelines, and then they send those laws to departments. And so we've been dealing with the Department of Education, one of the primary departments that we deal with, and the Internal Revenue Service. They all have to write the rules of how the laws are going to be implemented, and they have broad discretion. And, you know, we were trying to plan and trying to think about how we would react in context of what the intent was of Congress. And then once the agencies start drafting the regulations for the implementation of the laws, they had some different viewpoints than what we had. And it's not a right or wrong. It's what they took as the intent of Congress and interpreted into regulations that we have to conduct ourselves under, which changed a bunch of our assumptions, you know, late in the game. So it's been an interesting couple months of first waiting to see how Congress was going to respond, or if they were going to respond, and then trying to interpret what they were saying, and then trying to plan, and then waiting for the agencies that do the implementation to draft the regulations and give us guidance on what we could and couldn't do.
You've got a lot of poli-sci majors in here. We definitely are familiar with bureaucratic discretion, so we understand what you guys have through a little bit.
Okay. All right.
I think, but at the university at large, like when you guys do release more information, I think that telling students that you've been struggling with this specifically might be helpful, and just trying to communicate that as much as possible. But I want to step off the floor and let somebody else ask the question too, but thank you, David. I appreciate it.
And you can help, Student Senate can help with that message as well. If you know, I think that would be perfectly acceptable for you to say, hey, look, we've talked to the administration and there were lots of balls in the air. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen that game where the plates are on the rods and the guy's running around trying to keep all the plates. Sometimes I think that's my job, is keeping all the plates spinning on the rods. So. Is Evan on the call? I saw he was on the list. Maybe he didn't make it. I wanted to meet him. He friended me on LinkedIn, and I have a policy on LinkedIn that I don't. There's Evan. Evan? Yes, Evan Knowles. Yes. I don't accept friend requests unless I know somebody. So I was going to meet Evan so that I could accept his friend request. So.
Hey, that's fair enough.
Is that you, Evan?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, now I know you. I'll accept your friend request.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I guess the last point I had, and then I'll let you get on with your meeting unless you want me to leave now, is, you know, how we make decisions. So we have a president's council, which all the vice presidents sit on, and we meet weekly with the president, and we take up issues of the institution, and we have an executive management committee, which is a smaller committee that's designed to be able to react a little more quickly, and not burden all the VPs with all the minute details of various policy decisions. And then generally we take those policy decisions to the president's council and you know, discuss them and have them ratified. And that council meets on a weekly basis. I will tell you that since about the 1st of March, we've been meeting much more often, and since about the middle, maybe the 3rd week in March, we've been meeting every day, and wrestling with the issues related to COVID-19 and how you know, how the institution is going to move forward. And then, of course, we have a board of directors that we have to report to, and You know, their primary job is to set general direction for the institution, to hire the president, and to approve the budget of the institution. Other questions? Well, hearing none.
Actually, do ask you a question in the chat.
Okay. Where will it come up? I'm a little bit of a neophyte on.
I'll voice it for
I
her.
can ask out loud if you'd like.
Oh, there's Dua. I didn't know if you had your phone on. Go ahead.
Sorry, I felt bad for interrupting. I just have a really quick question. So I'm a commuter senator, and commuters have been pretty silent lately. But I just wanted to ask, just in case anyone had asked me, will there be any discrimination between residents and commuters in the refunds?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, it's room, board, and parking. So I think people will be treated on a pro rata basis equally.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions? Well, if there are no other questions, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. You know, I hope you're all getting along well, and you're healthy and safe, and your families are healthy and safe, and the group that may be seniors. You know, we will have a commencement at some point in time. And for those of you that are underclassmen, I look forward to seeing you next year when you come back. And I did see I had another question pop up.
Yeah, I have a question. If students have a balance on their account, like for room and board or something, will they still get refunded for room and board? And how is that going to work?
I think that the room and board, any adjustments that are made will go through the student account. So that the extent to which you would have a credit balance, you would either be able to leave that money for next year if you desire, or it would be applied, or you could request it back. Obviously, if you're a senior, you wouldn't want to leave that for next year. But if you have a balance on your account, that money will go through your account, and you would have access to whatever was in excess of your student account.
Thanks.
Not so with the CARES money. The CARES money, whatever gets distributed on the CARES money, will come in a separate way, and not go through your student account. Okay, well, I think I went over 15 minutes, and I apologize for that. But again, thank you, and good luck. I hope to talk to you again.
Thank you very much for being here. I know for everyone on Senate, we're all very glad to hear everything that you presented, and it's very helpful to us. And I hope you can see the chat. Many people are thanking you also. So thank you. We really enjoyed. No worries on time. Our senators typically have a lot of questions. So thank you for being generous with your time as well.
Okay, great. Well, again, I'm glad I hope you're all safe and your families are as well. Take care. Good to meet you too, Evan. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. Thank you for your active participation and listening. I hope that was very helpful, and I hope that it will continue to benefit you. And also, I'm just gonna, little side note, I think President Brown might say this later, but she says it in a report. We are going to be increasing communication per the former, or administration will be increasing the number of communications to students. So that's also a work in progress. So we should be seeing something this week, including information that has been sent to the staff. So yeah, Anyway, so we're gonna get straight into it. After that, we have new business, SR 002 Spring 20, Senator Jacobs.
Hi, everyone. I hope you all had a chance to read over the SR. I sent it earlier yesterday, I believe. So if you haven't yet and you want to log into that, that's great. So the reason I bring now at our last meeting is because a couple weeks ago, I talked to Ryan Blevins in the residential life office, and he gave us an assignment to do. He wanted us to make a list of our hopes and like what we want to get out of a new visitation policy, and then make a list of what administration would most likely pass from that that list that we made. And I felt that that was kind of redundant to what we were already doing. I think we kind of explained what we kind of wanted to see in a visitation policy by all the work we've been doing in my talks with Ryan. And also I believe that it's not Student Senate's job to kind of make a bargain with the administration before we even get to the table. So I went ahead and I began Senate Resolution 002 so that we can get something done for the summer so that it's on the table. And after this crisis kind of lightens up, it's on the table for President Heckler to start discussing that. Also like to give a quick shout out to Senators Hershberger, Zaki, Johnson, Levine, and Behrens for helping me out, and Secretary Mississini. You guys are all great, and everybody else who helped out during the entire academic year with this visitation policy stuff. So I did my little part, and now I'm open to concerns, issues, questions. Yeah.
I just have a quick comment. I did reach out to constituents that were concerned about the visitation policy before. Oh, sorry. And none of them got back to me with concerns about it. So I think we're good. A lot of them were part of the LGBTQ plus community, and so they didn't raise any concerns about what was on the SR document.
I'm glad to hear that. I know Caitlin made a tweet today, and I also tweeted out the actual SR, and I only had one concern, which was, are we going to explain the LGBTQ language that we'd like to see in the policy in the SR? And I said that that's something that we can just discuss with President Heckler over the summer or next semester when we get to that. And I think that's fine because they didn't have a concern after that.
All right, thanks, Senator Jacobs. We have a motion to move the SR to old business in a second. So if you would use that link to vote, either yes or no, please do that. Just to clarify, that means we would be voting on it as well tonight. All right, please everyone make sure to vote. Should be getting 26 responses. All right, well, I'll accept 25 as a majority because it is. So the motion passes and it moves to old business. We have no more new business. So going on, is there any further discussion or amendments that seem to be made to this, or is there a motion to vote on it? Yes, Senator Hershberger.
I just want to say that I am really, really proud of Senator Jacobs and all of the work that he has put into this SR. This has obviously been something that Student Senate has been working on for a really long time. This has been a really big concern, I think, that our constituents have. And so I'm really proud of him for taking it on and not I know sometimes working with the administration, working with Rise Life, it can be really easy to just kind of give up or say like, oh, it's too hard. It's never going to pass. But he's been really hardworking, and I've just been really proud of his persistence in getting this done. So good job, Ben. That's all.
Thank you so much. And like I said to Jesse earlier today, I couldn't have done it with all of your guys' help. So thank you guys so much. Thank you. I hope to get something actually done about it over the summer or next semester. Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion to vote. Is there a second? Great. All right, using that exact same link, I've cleared that poll. All in favor of approving SR 002 Spring 20 visitation policy. SR. Okay, thank you. So we should be getting 25 votes, and just for consistency's sake, it would be good to get that every time. Okay, well then the motion passes 22 to 1.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Senator Jacobs. Okay. Senator Mariama. Sorry, I forgot that we actually have 2 committees that require voting. So yes, first we'll do Administration Committee.
All right, hey guys, this is gonna be the last student organization I bring up as admin chair, but so we've been kind of working through some of the couple of the requests, trying to work with everything being online, and then anything that anyone else who does respond after this will kind of be worked through the committee. But I did speak over email to the student attempting to create Valpo Swim Club, and then over email the administration committee had their chance to read her response to questions, and so I can kind of read a little bit about what she said for what the reasonings behind the club were. They're mainly going to be a practicing club for just people to be active and to practice swim technique. She doesn't have plans currently for them to be a traveling or competing organization its first semester or year, but more for a place for people to come together, practice swimming, and just generally be active. And so I have been in contact with her for a little bit in Rec Sports. She was in contact with Rec Sports before working through this process. So she has been from Rec Sports, and the administration committee voted 6-0-0.
All right, thank you, Senator Mariama. Is there any discussion on this?
I know the person who is bringing this up, and like Eric said, this is not competitive at all. She is just looking for anybody who wants to have fun swimming. no experience needed. So, yeah.
Thank you, Senator Jacobs. Any other discussion on this matter?
If I can also comment really quickly, she said this is a question we ask usually at every admin meeting, but she said that the organization will not be requesting a budget anytime in the near future. So that plays a part. They're just looking to get recognized so that they can rent rooms and have spaces to meet and etc.
All right, thank you. Yes, Senator Hirschberger.
Hi, sorry. I was just wondering, I can't remember if Eric said this, but are they like approved by Rec Sports and everything? I don't know if you guys have talked to
Yeah.
them. Okay.
She went through and she spoke to them before going through this process. So.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We have a motion to vote. Is there a second? All right, all in favor of approving, sorry, what was the club, Senator Mariano?
Valpo Swim Club.
Valpo Swim Club. Please vote on that same poll. All right, the motion passes 25-01.
And I will email you and the advisors that the form and the Constitution to pass on.
Thank you. All right, moving on, we have some screening business to attend to. Senator Monahan.
I am so sorry. My screen was being a little weird. Yeah, no. So I did try to meet with, as I talked about an exec, I did meet or try to meet with the person recommended by Ben, but they reached out to me and said they were no longer interested in the position. So I met with Dylan and we interviewed Isis, as you guys all know, is an amazing person and a wonderful candidate. So she's our candidate for the parliamentarian position. I don't think I need to speak on her great record and her great person, and I just think she's a really strong candidate to help us get through this tough time. And I feel like her leadership and experience, as well as her knowledge of parliamentarian procedure, would be phenomenal for exec. And I cannot more strongly recommend somebody. Dylan and I voted 2-0 because getting a hold of my committee has been very, very hard. There's no quorum requirement, so that's our recommendation.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion on this matter?
ISIS is already not afraid to interrupt people when they're doing procedure wrong, so I imagine we'll step into this position fine.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion to vote? All right. Right. Oops, sorry, I didn't clear it. All right. All in favor of approving Isis Zaki as a parliamentarian for the 2019-2020 school year? All right. The motion passes 23-02. Congratulations. Moving on, just for point of order, we will not be swearing you in tonight just because we can't do that, but you can be sworn in by the executive board. So, all right. Is there any other committee matter or business that needs to be attended to? Kind of last chance to bring that up.
Mark, do you want my official report from the president this week, or do you want me to do that at the end? I'm not sure where.
Oh, I'm sorry. We kind of skipped over advisors' reports. You could do that now. Now would be a great time for that.
Okay, it's not very long. So,
could you give me 1 second? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I am so sorry. I'm just trying to pull up my document so I can write it down.
Okay, or I can send it to you after too if that's helpful.
Yeah, could you do that then so I don't have
Absolutely.
time? Sorry.
No, that's okay. So as Annika had in her report, I did respond back about on behalf of the president to her request, or your request, to have the communication beyond my report. And there were four pieces that we focused on. One was that students would be, and we felt that there was a communication that was actually going out to faculty and staff, but you're absolutely right. We don't have anything that's been centrally going out to students. And that faculty and staff also kind of wanted this summary update on what is happening with the COVID-19. So you all, starting this Thursday, it always goes on Thursday, all students will get a copy of the Chronicle. And the update will be at the very top, so that if everybody doesn't want to read the whole rest of it, they don't need to or don't want to. And then the detail will still be on the website, which is where we've been putting all the communications as we've been going along. But that will be a more centralized way to get information to you all. And then we will, it's not necessarily right now have a lot of content directed specifically to students. So student affairs will be working on that, but you also can recommend or send in anything that you might want to have included in the Chronicle that might be more student facing. And then I will continue to do updates and probably will do that with exec staff over the summer on the COVID-19 part in particular. The other part is we just shared about the updated communication that should be coming out by the latest on Friday. And I'm not sure, the other thing we're figuring out is, the governor's order is done on May 1, which is this Friday. So campus is eagerly waiting to hear what the next step will be. He did announce in a press briefing, the governor did, that the decision about reopening K-12 for fall in any higher education is not expected to be updated until mid-May. So we are doing all of our contingency planning, but the governor basically gave us a bit of a timeline to say that he won't be addressing in his executive order the reopening of K-12 or higher education institutions for fall until mid-May. So that was a new piece of information that we just all received this afternoon. So we will see what he has to say on Friday, and that'll indicate whether or not employees are still staying from home or whether we're going into some phased opening, or what will happen based on the governor's orders. That was it.
Thank you very much, Dr. DeGraw. All right, so we have the last few things to complete. So every year we typically have a Senate retreat. Some of you may have attended one before. If you're a second year, typically we like to, go out to a restaurant or something. Unfortunately, we can't do that this year. And every year we do Senate superlatives, as President Brown had sent out a form, I think last week, and everyone nominated people for different superlatives. It was very fun to look through. And President Brown, if you wanna, I think you have them, not me. So
yes. Before we start, I just wanted to say a few words to all of you, since this kind of replaced our banquet, which I would normally share this during. But I just want to say thank you to this group for all of the hard work that you put in this year. This has been such an energetic and enthusiastic Senate, and I think that's really exciting, especially for a lot of the new senators we had this year. We just had so many great members that did so much, and I'm so grateful for all of the work that you put in this year. And this is definitely not how I expected this last meeting to be, but I'm just very thankful for work that you've done, and also very excited to see everything that you take on next year. So thank you to everyone. Special shout out also to all the seniors in here. I know I've worked with a lot of you for many years in this group. So it's hard to see us getting to this point, but also very exciting to see everything that's happened. So thank you all. No further ado, we'll get on to superlatives. Bear with me on presenting this because I'm not sure I'll do it right.
Okay, I'm trying not to give it away ahead of time. Can everyone see that?
No.
No. Oh no. Okay. Oh wait. Here it is. I feel like one of those struggling professors right now. Okay, now can everyone see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, here we go. I'm just going to go through them. You can cheer as you want. These were based off of the responses that you sent in for the forms. And I included some of the creative ones you all came up with. It was really good. So Mark and I went over them together.
Yeah. All Robert's rules are suspended right now, by the way. I'll just allow it.
All right, we got most valuable player, MVP to Eric. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Well done. Taking on many roles. Definitely essential for the election this year and many other parts. So great job. All right, moving on. Outstanding new members. So we tagged on Dr. DeGraw with this one. Even though she's not technically a member, she's an advisor. She's been a huge help first time around. She's done a great job. So we're really thankful for that.
Thank
also,
you.
Dua and Chris. Right. Grace. Yes, Mark?
I just wanted to say we had a ton of new members and like everyone was awesome. And this year was more new members than I think any other year that I've been on Senate. And for the amount of new people on Senate, for like a better way to put it, like just amazing work that was done this year. So amazing. Anyway,
For
sorry.
Greatest amount of growth shown. Ben Jacobs and Allison Priso. Excellent job.
Yay, thank you.
This is so hard because I can't see any of your reactions.
I'm genuine, I promise.
Most likely to rule the world went to ISIS.
Y'all, who wants to live in that world? Come on.
I will say I was close second on that one. I'm just kidding.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Most likely to call a point of order information. Caitlin, just got it down.
I'm honored to do so always.
All right, most likely to be found the students in office. We got our lovely treasurers and Jesse. You guys have put in a lot of hours in that office, but we're really thankful for the hard work you put in. All right, most friendly, Jolie and Bree.
Hi, I love it.
Greatest volunteer / participation went to Paige.
Aw,
Always volunteering for lots of things.
Thank you, Paige, for everything you do.
Of course.
Outstanding Senate spirit goes to Sophia. Although honestly, this one's hard because you all have lots of spirit. So, most likely forget the gavel. Whoever came up with this one was very smart. It was funny. Just gave me a lot of laughs. Okay. Did you ever find it?
No, I have no idea where it is.
So sorry, Ben. You'll have to buy a new gavel.
I got one, y'all. It's okay. We're covered for next year.
I have a lint roller for tonight, so.
Most likely to offer the historical perspective. We got Dean Jenkins, always coming in with the Senate history. We appreciate it. Best opening devotion goes to Andrew. That lighter opening devotion, so good. And most likely to be late to a General Assembly meeting, admin committee, a few times.
We have work to do.
All right, that's it. I'm going to stop sharing now. So sorry. Okay, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you all. We wish we could have written superlatives for everyone because you were all really great, and yeah, couldn't have had a better Senate. And speaking of having a Senate, in about 2 minutes, we won't anymore, President Brown and I. So we're going to move on to the oath of office. So we have a few people that will be taking the oath of office. You should have.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Mark, can I say my little bit first? before we go into that, since it goes right from what you guys said?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah, no, I just wanted to, make sure that I expressed as advisor, thank you to all you for all your work and for your advocacy for the students as a whole. You guys have really done a great job of really trying to have a sense of what students wanted and bring those forward. I've really been impressed by your professionalism and your willingness to engage and sort of think beyond yourselves for the greater good. I know it's been a lot of work on a number of different fronts for you all, so I really appreciate that. And for those who are graduating and those who kind of had senior leadership, I want to make sure I thank you for that leadership. You've really, I think there's been a community that's been developed with this group and a collective kind of voice on campus, and that doesn't just happen. That comes from good leadership. So I wanted to make sure to thank all of you. And for those who aren't graduating, I hope you all return because I want to get to know you more and to continue to learn and grow together. And personally, I wanted to thank everybody for being so welcoming for my first year here. Amazing. I really could not have asked for more encouraging and welcoming Senate. And working with you guys has really definitely been one of the highlights for me this year. So I just wanted to be sure and say thank you so much. So sorry, now swearing in.
No, actually, I'd like to follow up on that if I could.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Mark?
Oh, of course, Dean Jenkins.
Okay. So speaking of historical perspectives, I've been thinking about how at times we look at things in isolation versus as having some kind of connection. So, for example, those of you who were around last year will remember that at this time last year, the Senate was kind of consumed with its structure and whether, frankly, that structure was discriminatory in nature. There were proposals for change that were made. They were revised and made again. Then elections had to be conducted using that new structure. In the end, the Senate seat allocation was very different than it had been. The change in the Senate body resulted in creating a more kind of representative place for all students. And that really in itself, I think, was a great accomplishment and brought in many new students to the university governance process. But as I thought about this year, and really more specifically this semester since spring break, it's occurred to me, and this is where the connection comes in, it's occurred to me that perhaps the new seat allocation actually helped you get through this time because of everyone needing to come together for the good of the entire student body. Really, your strength and your resolve came from your diversity as well as then your common purpose. You weren't able to do everything you wanted to do this year, but you accomplished what you needed to do on behalf of all students. And you should be proud of that, especially with the added layer of the coronavirus. So I wanted to say that to you all more broadly. But I also want to give out a special thanks to two people who really work more behind the scenes, but have a very important role within the Senate. And those are the two treasurers, Cameron and Jackson. They don't have a lot of upfront time. They're not really kind of the face of Senate, so to speak. But day after day after day, they are involved in helping students accomplish their programs and their activities and getting things done in a way that helps students in accomplishing those activities and in the financial reimbursements for the things that they do. And, for 2 years now in particular, the people who have been in those positions have been great. And they don't have the kind of the shining star status that might go along with kind of shepherding a new visitation policy proposal or something to do with dining services or things like that. But nonetheless, their role is really critical to Senate, and because it's when students aren't getting the reimbursements for their money, that's when you hear from them, and that's when they become upset. And so, even though the two of them work behind the scenes, their role is really important. And since I work with them most closely on kind of a day-to-day basis, I wanted to make sure that they get recognized for all the work that they did this past year as well. So with that, I hope all of you have a great summer. And for those of you who are returning, I look forward to seeing you this fall. And I hope you all, again, have a safe summer regardless of what you're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean Jenkins. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Dean Jenkins. I think we can definitely all agree that we would be very, we wouldn't be who we are without the treasurer's hard work. So thank you for that input and recognition. All right. So I think without further ado, we will get into the oath of office. So those being sworn in, you should have received an email with the oath of office. So if you would please refer to that and repeat after me. Sorry, just 1 second.
Do you want us to unmute for this?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, everybody unmute. Everybody that is taking the oath of office, which is Chris Grimpy, Paige Messessany, Mark Lorenz, Ben Jacobs, and Caitlin Steinheiser. Oh, you're both together? Oh, okay.
Are
we live
doing this
together now.
together?
I totally did not expect that. Sorry. All right. So please repeat after me. I, name of office holder,
I,
Ben
Caitlin
Jacobs,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly
do solemnly
swear
swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of name of position
that I will
that I will
faithfully
faithfully
execute the office
office
of
of
student
Vice
vice
President of the
president
Student Body
of Valparaiso University. Sorry, that was a weird one. Of Valparaiso University, and will to the best of my ability
of Valparaiso
of Valparaiso
University
University
and will to the best of my ability
ability
preserve, protect, and defend the interests of Valparaiso University Student Senate and the student body of Valparaiso University.
preserve,
protect, and defend the interests of Valparaiso University Student Senate and the Student Body of Valparaiso University.
All right. Well, congratulations. You are sworn in. If you'd please email me those documents signed, that would be wonderful. And sorry about my terrible way of reciting that. And without further ado, I pass it off to Vice President Jacobs.
Well, thank you very much, ex-Vice President Young. So we are on to postmortem. I'll try to make this quick, but I think we all could use like a nice little speech right now, given the circumstances. So this has been a wild semester. This isn't how any of us wanted the semester to end, but we still managed and made it through it. I, for one, am proud of all of you for being so understanding and resilient these past 7 weeks by adapting to an online life, both in and out of Senate. I believe we finished the semester out strong, and that's all thanks to all of your unwavering support and participation. First, I would like to draw attention to Mark and Annika's amazing leadership. In my opinion, I believe this is one of the best years that Student Senate has had in a long time, and that's in large part because of Annika and Mark's sharp and dignified leadership. They turned Senate around to a functional online portal very quick so that we would not lose focus on the continuing issues on campus. Thank you, Annika and Mark, for an amazing year. We cannot wait to see where your life takes you. Next, I want to make a special shout out to our seniors. You have all worked tirelessly this year and to not only make sure that Senate ran smoothly this year, but also came up with new and innovative ways for Student Senate to operate better in the future. I am deeply sorry that you couldn't finish out your last semester on campus, but your dedication to supporting the health of the public does not go unnoticed. Thank you so much for giving up the last weeks of your college years to help save lives of those who could have been affected, and thank you all again for your years of dedicated service to Student Senate. Thank you to the advisors for your unwavering support and guidance through an unprecedented and rocky time, as well as throughout the rest of the year. We took on many projects and had many ideas this year, And because of your support and guidance, we are all able to get on track to achieving so much for campus. Lastly, to all student senators, you have done extraordinary work this year. We may not have had a lot of SRs written, but what we did have was many different stepping stones placed for what will be fantastic wins for students. Our voices will soon be strong for change within dining services. Soon we'll have the ability to have opposite gendered guests stay overnight in residence halls and have a win for LGBTQ rights on campus. We'll have created a pathway for our voices to be heard in the presidential search and get a seat on the President's Council and create a more transparent and inclusive environment. Thank you so much for all of your hard work this year. Keep it up. Run for positions in the fall and encourage other people to run as well. Caitlin and I, along with the rest of the executive board, look forward to working with many of you in the coming semester. Remember to make safe, smart, and vigilant decisions in the coming weeks and months. I hope you and your loved ones all stay safe and healthy. Have a great summer, everyone. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting and the legislative session of 2019-2020?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, this meeting is adjourned at 9:23. Thank you guys so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Love you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.